Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 8th July 2023. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Haribol TRSV Nectar NECTAR Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in the vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my future videos and the past videos. So let us continue with the discussion of the topic for today in this particular video. As you all know, we are discussing in detail about the elements that make up the gross body of a human living entity. These are four in number. They are first air, second fire, third water, and fourth earth. We have already discussed about fire and air. Today we would like to discuss about the third element, that is water, in this discussion about the elements of this gross body. Before continuing on this particular topic, let us have a quick recap of all that we have learned so far. When the spirit soul gets in touch with the material world, the irritated material world starts enveloping this spirit soul with layers of the material body. These layers are four in number. Of these, three are subtle and the fourth is gross. The three subtle layers are as follows: causal intelligence, first layer; astral mind of feelings and emotions, second layer; etheric senses, third layer. These three subtle layers are made up of the first element in the material body, that is ether. Now remains the gross body. This gross body is made up of four elements, that is air, fire, water, and earth. Air emanates out of the first element, ether. This fire, the second element in the gross body, emanates out of the first element of the gross body, that is air. The third element, water, emanates out of the second element called fire. And the fourth element, earth, emanates out of the third element called water. This we must always remember before discussing about any element in detail. Kindly remember that those subtle bodies and the etheric element that is the main ingredient of those subtle bodies is neither felt nor is visible to the naked eye. However, this gross body, which is made up of the four elements being air, fire, water, and earth, is the only part of a human living entity that helps this material world identify that human living entity. That is, this gross body is the front of this human living entity to be identified in this society. This also happens to other living entities. That is, the gross body of all living entities help the society and the material world identify that particular living entity. As for example, tree is a gross body, lion is a gross body, so are all the animals, fishes, amphibians, insects, reptiles, birds, human beings, etc. Every human living entity is identified by his or her gross body. As they say, face is the index of the mind. That means that you can, if you have a practiced eye, intelligence, knowledge, experience, and maturity, can deduce what is going on in the mind of a human living entity just by looking at his or her face, body language, and eye expressions. Now, returning to the main topic, water. We have already discussed about the second element, that is air, the third element, that is water, the fire in the body of the living entity. First element is ether, that we will talk about in a different video. But here, of the gross body, the first element air and the second element fire we have already discussed in detail about. Today we shall talk about the third element, that is water. Water emanates out of fire in the gross body of a living entity. Unlike fire, unlike water that is visible outside in the society, the same water in different forms is also visible in the gross body of a living entity. Air is felt, fire is felt, but both are not visible to the naked eye. But the third element, water, is visible in different forms in the body or a gross body of a human living entity. These forms are blood, urine, sperm, and other liquid combinations in the body like phlegm, etc. Phlegm has both earth and water in it, whereas urine and blood are pure water mixed with other ingredients. It is said by the medical field that 75% of the gross body of any living entity, whether or not human, constitutes of water in different forms, both solid as well as liquid. It is this water which is mixed with hemoglobin, white blood corpuscles, red blood corpuscles, and other things or other ingredients that is used to transport blood and oxygen into the rest of the body, including the brain of any human living entity. This blood is perennial for the existence of a human or any other living entity. As long as this blood is pumped into the rest of the body, including the brain, the person remains alive. Though blood is pumped by the heart of a living entity, it is actually originating from the bone marrow. Bone marrow of a human living entity is that form of tissue which exists in between the bone of a human living entity. There is a skeleton made up of bones in every living entity. This bone has what is known as bone marrow that exists within it. The bone acts as a tube in which this bone marrow exists. Due to different reactions, this bone marrow gives birth to blood, which is made up of 90% or 75% water and the other ingredients called blood corpuscles, hemoglobin, and other ingredients. This blood, which is in liquid form, helps transmit or transport oxygen and blood and energy to the other parts of the human body. Maximum of this oxygen and blood is used by the brain alone because this brain is the main instrument connecting the gross body of a living entity with the subtle bodies of etheric senses, astral mind, and causal intelligence. Vibration from the subtle bodies is transmitted by this brain to the rest of the gross body of a living entity. Anyway, we are talking about water. In this water, while this blood in liquid form is used to serve a particular purpose. Similarly, urine is used to throw away waste from this body, and that waste constitutes of dead white blood corpses plus undigested food or rejected material of the gross body, and the liquid form of that effluent that is thrown away from this body through the urine. There are other forms also, but in those forms, the liquid side is less than the solid side. These are phlegm and other waste. The urine, another form of liquid or water, is manufactured or created by the two kidneys of a human living entity. It is this kidney which absorbs all the waste in the body of a gross in the gross body of a human living entity and is thrown away through this liquid form of urine. There is another form of liquid that is known as sperm. Whenever a person gets a sexual orgasm, he or she ejects some liquid from the body which is full of sperms. These sperms consist of genes, DNAs, proteins, etc., and they are used for the reproduction or reproductive process of a human living entity. This shows how important blood or water is in a body of a human living entity. We must not forget that blood is one of the perennial requirements for the very existence of gross body, and this blood needs water most. Similarly, the reproductive sperm is also liquid in form, and it is also full of water. Similarly, urine, which helps throw away a lot of waste from the gross body to maintain the health of the gross body, is also liquid in form, and so it has a lot of water in it. As I had mentioned before, this gross body of a living entity has 75% or more of water in it. That is precisely the reason why every human or other living entity has to intake a lot of water to subsist in this world. A person may or may not go without food or solid items for a few days, but both the living human entities plus other living entities have to drink water and to breathe oxygen to survive in this world for more than one day. It is not possible for a person to be deprived of both oxygen, which is a part of air, and water, which is a part of water, to survive. This we must understand while we are talking about this gross body. We must marvel at the masterpiece that God has made by creating living entities like us in the material world. This gross body takes vibrations from the subtle bodies of etheric senses, astral mind, and causal intelligence and acts according to the taste, preferences, intelligence, education, experience, maturity, destiny, and karma of a particular living entity. We have already discussed about it, but I would like to remind you that the reactions of the gross body of every human living entity is different from the other. A carpenter, a blacksmith, a goldsmith, a soldier, a teacher, professor, lecturer, lawyer, engineer, doctor, scientist, research person, or any other such person will have different reactions to different vibrations from his or her gross body. 75% of the people take vibrations from the etheric senses and act accordingly. That is precisely the reason why lust and sex plus greed, ego, illusion, etc., form a major part in the lives of a human living entity. Probably they are as important in the lives of other living entities also, but we do not know about them. However, etheric senses control our sensory objects, tastes, preferences, etc., and keep us concentrating only on the sensual subjects of life. However, the more educated, experienced, and mature a living entity grows, his preference for vibrations from the astral mind and causal intelligence increases more and more. That is precisely the reason why there is a different reaction from an unskilled laborer, a skilled laborer, an, a literate person, an educated person, an old man, a teenager, a child, an adult, etc. Because as a person grows in maturity and age, his or her tastes, preferences, choices, maturity, etc. differ or they increase in quality. That is, a person becomes more and more experienced and matured by all these ingredients like education, literacy, experience, maturity, street wisdom, etc. So, what we were when we were illiterate, unskilled, etc., we will not be when we are skilled or educated. Coming back to water in the gross body. This water is directly or indirectly connected to these vibrations from the subtle body. The sperm, which is liquid in quality, depends on ejaculation, which is because of vibration from the etheric senses that activate that part of the brain which instructs the rest of the body to indulge in sexual activities. Similarly, it is the brain which gives a particular person an instruction about when and where to discharge his or her wastage from the body in the form of urine and other substances. This urine is also liquid in form. The same water is also a part of other substances that are present in the body, like the human waste, then phlegm, then wax in the ear, etc. These things cannot be taken out in solid form. They have to be diluted to be brought out of the gross body of a human being. Vibrations from the brain, which come from etheric senses, help transmit such instructions that make this gross body function properly and to use the water in its constitution perfectly. That is, if there is a vibration of etheric senses that makes the brain of a human or other living entity to transmit waste out of the gross body of that particular living entity, then this liquid form goes out, and at the same time the intake of the same liquid is also based on vibrations from the etheric senses to the brain. This water is extremely important in the life of a living entity. As we already know, it is the main source of life tones and breath inside the body of a living entity, because it is this water which takes oxygen throughout the body of the living entity. Today we have understood how water works in the gross body of a living entity. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular topic. Sorry for the disturbances that I created while narrating this particular topic because of some disturbances in the place where I am sitting. I apologize for the disturbances caused by me. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular matter. Please give me your own expert views, thoughts, ideas, and opinions so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet next time in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan